Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the January 19th regular meeting of Nanaimo City Council. I'd like to first recognize that we are gathered on the traditional territory of the Snuneymuxw First Nation. Our clerk tonight will be Ms. Sheila Gurry. We also have attending electronically Councillors Manley and Brown. Welcome. Tonight's regular meeting of Council is being held in accordance with the Community Charter and Council Procedure Bylaw 2018, number 7272. If during the meeting any member of the gallery has a question regarding an agenda item, please write down your name and the number on the question period sign-up sheet, which is on the table by the double doors to my left. Please note that the Council Procedure Bylaw states that questions will only be taken on staff reports, consent items, or other business items. I do note that you look like a pretty small and civilized crowd tonight, so I'm not going to read out warnings about public decorum and not cheering or jeering or clapping during the course of the meeting. I trust we'll all behave well. The first item on the agenda is the introduction of late items, Ms. Gurry, and we do have a couple.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship, and good evening, Council. For late items tonight, we have Agenda Item 13B, rezoning application number RA524 for 1100 Mon Road. We're adding a delegation from Blake Ector. And for Agenda Item 15C1, correspondence dated January 15th, 2026 from Island North Film Commission. There's a letter regarding the 2026 bridge funding for Island North Film Commission. So it's a funding request. And that is it, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Motion for adoption of the agenda is amended. Moved Councillor Perino, seconded Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Motion for adoption of the minutes is circulated. Moved Councillor Eastmere, seconded Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. I have a number of items for the Mayor's report tonight. The first is to happily announce that Geneviève Shrub is our newest Youth Poet Laureate. An emerging voice in Nanaimo's literary community. Ms. Strub has been appointed to the city to be the city's Youth Poet Laureate for a two-year term, 2026 to 2028. She was formally appointed by Council following a selection process that recognized her compelling body of work, strong community vision, and commitment to making poetry accessible, inclusive, and relevant to young people. Delighted to make that announcement. I would remind everyone that the city itself is seeking feedback on the final phase of planning for the Woodgrove area. The third phase is looking at the policies, actions, and monitoring framework for the area. And we're seeking input from residents on a proposed roadmap for transforming the Woodgrove area into a vibrant place to live, work, and play. Now in phase 3, the Woodgrove Area Plan project is focusing on identifying the policies, actions, and monitoring framework needed to achieve the goal of a complete community for the area. The results of the project will see a Woodgrove Area Plan that provides detailed land use and policy guidance for future development in the Woodgrove Secondary Urban Centre. The plan is intended to build on the vision found in City Plan Nanaimo Reimagined. A survey is now open from January 12th to 25th, 2026 to collect feedback on the proposed policies, actions, and monitoring framework. You can access the survey and find additional information on the Woodgrove Area Plan page on Get Involved Nanaimo, and please do. Little reminder for the owners of the canine community, dog owners are reminded to renew their licenses for 2026, and there's a discount of 16% if you renew on or before February 28th. So with the renewal underway, we remind you to renew, and license fees will vary depending on whether a dog has been spayed or neutered as well. And again, 16% discount if you renew before February 28th. And who doesn't like a bargain after Christmas? The city is seeking a new member for the Board of Variance. Applications will be open until February 6, 2026. Residents interested in becoming more involved with local government have the opportunity to apply to the Board of Variance. The City of Nanaimo is currently recruiting one member for a 3-year term. Successful applicants to the board will have to have a basic understanding of building and zoning regulations, such as the city's zoning bylaw and BC Building Code, as well as familiarity with interpreting architectural plans and documents. Board members cannot be elected officials, employees of the local government that appoints them, or on an advisory planning commission. And I recommend this highly to anybody who's interested. I have never met anyone who didn't enjoy their time in the Board of Variance. Councillor Thorpe says cynically, oh, I'm shocked. No. Quite right. Yes, thank you. It's good to be seconded. The City of Nanaimo is happy to announce the selection of the 2026 temporary public art projects. Public art projects by Eliza Gardner and Isaiah Kingdon and Twyla Exner will invite reflection, play, and community participation. 2 innovative and community-focused projects have been selected for the City of Nanaimo's 2026 Temporary Public Art Program. The projects, Forest Flowers by Eliza Gardner and Isaiah Kingdon, and Encrustation, Barnacles of Belonging by Twyla Exner, will transform public spaces through vibrant sculptural forms, participatory processes, and connections to Nanaimo's natural and cultural landscape. Please take an opportunity when these are up, and if you wish to know more about the Temporary Public Art Program, go to the city's website, please. Now, modesty, I always jokingly say, can be a highly overrated quality, but I don't think there's any sense in being modest. For those of you who've been paying attention to the news, Numbeo is a large crowd-sourced online database, and it looks at the cost of living, housing, quality of life data worldwide, allowing users to compare cities and countries for factors like prices, food, transport, rent, living conditions, including safety, healthcare, and pollution. It was founded by Mladen Adamovich in 2009. It gathers data from users globally, providing practical insights for potential movers, researchers, or anyone interested in comparing global living standards. I am happy to announce, if you haven't heard it already, that Nanaimo is the number 2 city in Canada behind Ottawa. We are 17, I think, in North America, if I recall. Let me just check the second page. It is yes, 17, yeah, there's 17 cities that made it onto the ranking in Canada, and we're number 2 of those cities. I think we're 65 otherwise. That's a pretty marvelous thing. Now, all of these surveys have, you know, various things that you can argue. There's lies, damned lies, and statistics, but the reality is Nanaimo's number 2, and I want to compliment all of the citizens of this community who make it a wonderful place to live, and all of those who's contributed to the kinds of things that saw us awarded this number 2 ranking. And we're coming up to a birthday. Beban Park is celebrating its 50th anniversary in 2026, marking a half a century since the opening of its core facilities like the pool, arena, and social center, with the city hosting special Family Day events, including cake and activities on Family Day, Monday, February 16th, to commemorate this milestone. The land has a much longer history with the Beban family, of course, though. The land was owned by the Beban family, Frank and Hannah, from the 30s to the 50s. The city of Nanaimo purchased from their estate the 160-acre farm in 1953 for what was a substantial sum, $50,000. And it was a key part of the city's amalgamation in 1975. The park officially became Beban Park and opened its core facilities in 1976. And as you know, it serves Nanaimo's primary recreation as our recreation hub, featuring arenas, pools, sport fields, and more. So come out on Family Day, February 16th, and help celebrate this significant anniversary. Nothing to rise and report on, Ms. Gurry. We have no presentations. Committee minutes are just for receipt. I'd ask for a motion for item 10 for adoption of consent items. Moved Councillor Perino, seconded Councillor Thorpe.
And Your Worship, I believe Councillor Thorpe wishes for an item to be removed, because it be considered separately. 10A1.
Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I'd requested to pull A1 from the consent list, so I'd like to speak to that.
Please.
If that's the process.
So Your Worship, if you
well,
would just...
actually, we'll vote on...
Right.
It's been seconded. We'll vote on the... Sorry, Councillor Manley? You're muted, Councillor Manley.
Sorry, I have to recuse myself from C2.
For B... C?
C2, culture
and grants, yes, okay.
So we will consider that one separately as well, Councillor Manley, so you can stay in for the vote on the remaining items.
So we're voting on the remaining consent items. All those in favor? And any opposed? None. Motion carries. Councillor Thorpe, you wish to speak now, please?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. If I may, to item 10A1, the Lost Lake Road traffic calming. And if council remembers, this extremely important subject was debated on November 24th, I believe. And at that point, I was quite prepared to accept the staff recommendation. Councillor Eastmuir wished to add and did add, including bollards on the outside of the lanes around the Smoky Crescent intersection, and that caused some debate. Eventually, this item was referred to the Public Safety Committee, and I see they have come back with no recommendation. So I'm sorry to have to spend any more time on this matter, Your Worship, but seeing as this was not the original recommendation, this is not what was recommended by our transportation experts. The local citizens did not request the bollards, and our Public Safety Committee is not recommending them, so I cannot support the recommendation now before us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Eastmuir.
Thank you. I just wanted to note that it wasn't, I believe Councillor Thorpe is incorrect when he says that the Public Safety Committee did not recommend the bollards. That's not accurate. They just didn't make a recommendation over and above what Council had already decided on this. There was no concern expressed at the Public Safety Committee about the addition of the bollards around the Smoky Crescent intersection, which is directly from feedback from area residents.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this? All right, all those in favor? Councillors Eastmuir, Gesselbrock, Manley, and Brown, and those opposed. Councillor Armstrong, Mayor Krogh, Councillor Thorpe, Councillor Perino. The motion fails. It's a tie. All right, Councillor Manley, Councillor Brown.
Just a point of clarity, Your Worship. As the motion failed, it also includes numerous other items, and so I'm just curious now, through you to staff, if that's appropriate. Essentially, there's nothing, in my understanding, there's nothing actionable on this.
Ms. Gurry?
Your Worship, my understanding, and Mr. Sims can maybe help correct me, but the motion is on the Lost Lake Road traffic calming. So on this matter, as it's failed on a tie, it will not go forward. It does include everything that is included in that motion is not coming forward.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. I'm just curious, would it be appropriate at this point or later in the agenda to essentially move the motion, but exclude everything from and include?
Sorry, the original motion?
Yeah, so the original staff
without, if I may, just let me move the original motion that came before council and deleting and include bollards on the outside of the lanes around the Smoky Crescent intersection. In other words, delete that.
Yes.
Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah.
Can you do that?
Yeah, the original staff motion.
Ms. Gurry?
Yes, Your Worship, I think that would be appropriate as it was the original motion, and this is coming from a committee, so council can make that change.
All right, is there a seconder for that? Seconder, Councillor Armstrong. Any discussion on this? Councillor Armstrong?
Yeah, thank you. I'll be supporting this because I heard from many of the residents in the neighborhood who I've been dealing with for years that they were opposed to the bollards, which is why I voted against it, but I will definitely be supporting the rest of the recommendations. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Eastmuir?
Thank you. I am disappointed to see a move away from including the bollards. For what it's worth, I didn't hear from anyone who was opposed to the bollards. All I've heard is an anecdote from Councillor Armstrong, but I have emails from other neighborhood residents saying that they did support that. There was, I think, continued frustration from Lost Lake neighborhood residents who didn't feel like this traffic calming went far enough, because what they were looking for is not just traffic calming, but an improvement in pedestrian safety, and that is really the aspect that the bollards was trying to address. One of the very minimal things that we can do in that area because of the inability to put in sidewalks So for me, this was an important piece of indicating our commitment to improving pedestrian safety, which to me goes hand in hand and is intrinsically linked with traffic calming. And I, at the Public Safety Committee, did not hear any concern about the bollards, other than from Councillor Armstrong. And I can't say whether anyone else had spoken against it, but there certainly was no recommendation from the Public Safety Committee to change the direction of council. So for that reason, I'll support this, but I'm disappointed that the bollards aren't included.
Thank you. If there's no further speakers, all those in favor of the motion and any opposed, none, motion carries. And Councillor Manley, will let you remove yourself, and we can now deal with item 10C2. Moved by Councillor Perino, seconded by Councillor Armstrong. All those in favor and any opposed, none, motion carries. Give it a minute for Councillor Manley to come back. I'm sure he is. Welcome back, Councillor Manley. We've dealt with that. The next item is 11, delegations unrelated to agenda items, and we have Ray Jones recutting down mature trees in neighborhoods. Mr. Jones, please come on down. I don't know if you've spoken to council before. Come up to the mic. If you'll just introduce yourself for the record, you'll have 5 minutes, and I'll tell you when there's a minute left. So, as I say, just introduce yourself for the record, and the floor is yours, sir.
My name is Ray Jones. Mayor and members of council, I'm speaking today as a concerned citizen of Nanaimo who is increasingly alarmed by the loss and decline of our urban forest across our neighborhoods. We are seeing growth in seeing a growing number of large mature trees removed, severely topped on private properties, as well as extensive tree loss associated with new construction and redevelopment. At the same time, invasive species in parks and public spaces are weakening and killing trees that should be protected for generations. Large trees are one of Nanaimo's greatest assets. They provide shade, reduce urban heat, absorb water, improve air quality, store carbon, support wildlife. They also significantly to neighborhoods' character, providing property values and residential, mental, and physical well-being. Yet, many of these benefits are being lost when mature trees are removed or improperly pruned, seeming with little oversight or long-term planning. While I recognize the city has a tree protection bylaw, it appears increasingly inadequate given current development procedures and climate challenges. Many smaller but still valuable trees are not protected, even though they represent the next generation of our urban canopy. During development projects, trees are meant to be retained are often damaged by soil compacting, root disturbance, or poor construction practices, leading to their decline years later. In addition, invasive species such as ivy and other aggressive plants are spreading throughout parks, greenways, natural areas. These invasive choke native trees, weaken their structure, and eventually lead to their failure or death. Without consistent and protective maintenance, city risks losing large protected portions of existing canopy over areas that are supposedly protected. I respectfully urge council to consider several actions. First, strengthen tree protection bylaw to include smaller diameter trees and specific species that are critical to long-term canopy resilience. I second, require stronger tree protection measure during development, including manufacturing enforcement and post-construction monitoring to retain trees' survival. Third, invest ongoing invasive species management in parks and public places with a focus on early intervention and long-term maintenance rather than removal after damage has occurred.
You have 1 minute left, sir.
Protecting Nanaimo's trees are not an obstacle to growth. It's an investment in a higher and more livable city. I ask council to treat our urban forest as an essential infrastructure and to take decisive steps now to ensure the preservation and restore for generations to come. Thank you, Ray Jones. So I've walked through like parks, like Colorado Dam, Buttertubs, my neighborhood. If you're walking through Colorado Dam, you look up at the tops of the trees. They're barely there. The ivy has attacked those trees. I've been in there. I've ripped ivy down 15 feet out of those trees by just tugging on it lightly. It grows behind cedar bark and it pops that bark off. Those trees won't survive. I don't think they'll live more than 10 years in there. It's really bad, and someone's got to take care of it.
Thank you.
There's got to be a program where these trees. So
Thank you, sir. Your time is up. I'm not seeing any questions. Councillor Gesselbrock and then Councillor Eastmere. Sorry.
Thanks. Appreciate your presentation, and I think it's something that we're all concerned about and trying to put the proper protections in, and we are redoing our tree management strategy, which will include the bylaw and development permitting, as we go forward. Just a question is there any, other than sort of in the parks, you're seeing some concerning situations, other parts of town that you're noticing that
I live in
there's
a
lot of-
neighborhood with lots of trees, and I'm noticing them come down like big trees. Like the trees that they're saving are 80 centimeters in diameter. That's a big tree. My friend's got a giant tree in his backyard, and it's just bigger than 80 centimeters. That's a huge tree. You're taking down those trees without permits? Like, it's not right. You got to save the smaller trees for later growth, for our urban forests, to protect our air quality and perfect the, keep us cooler and whatever. I've sent you guys pictures. I showed you one picture of Departure Bay, and they've got a big retaining wall, and they're looking at it like, if we have an earthquake, there's no telling that those houses won't slide down onto Departure Bay. It's the building practices. There's big lots that are just cleared. There's no restrictions. They get a certain amount that the city collects for taking down trees. Well, they're taking down so many trees, they've paid that. And they say, go ahead, keep on going. It doesn't really matter. You've already paid us, so you can take down as many blighted trees as you want. There's no restrictions on anything anymore. There's got to be a change, and looking after the parks as well as private.
Mr. Jones.
Thank you.
You're here to respond to questions, and Councillor Eastmere has a question as well, please.
Pardon me.
It's all good.
There you go.
I thank you for your presentation and for caring about our urban trees. I just wondered if you knew about the work parties that the city of Nanaimo hosts in various parks to remove some of the invasive species. Have you ever participated?
I've seen them. I've seen them go after buttertubs and
Awesome.
stuff like that. There's too little action. There's not a big enough plan. There's not enough there's not an organization, there's not a big team that goes and attacks this issue. They can't control it. The stuff is growing fast and they take care of it. There's got to be a workforce to take care of it. I can't do it on my own. I go in there for a walk. I clear 3 trees maybe. That's all I can do.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I do really appreciate our Parks Department for putting on the work parties and including a lot of volunteers. It does take a lot of time. It's also why I brought forward the motion around banning the sale of invasive species so that we can stop them from getting into the system in the first place. But you're right that the ivy is already growing at a faster pace than we can really keep up. So I look forward to helping with more work parties and encouraging volunteers to get out there, and appreciate you caring. And we also have a cool new map of our tree canopy, our urban tree canopy. And so if you go on there, you can actually see like each neighborhood, what the tree density is in those areas, and it's helping us to be able to focus our efforts. And we're aiming for, I think it's 40% tree coverage in all neighborhoods, which is sort of over and above the 30% recommended level. So I do see us trying, and I appreciate what Councillor Gesselbrecht mentioned about updating our tree protection bylaws, which is an important piece of this. Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. The next is administrative reports, and the first is A, Woodgrove Area Plan, Phase 2 Engagement Summary, and Phase 3 Draft Policies, Actions, Monitoring Framework, and Design Guidelines. Mr. Holm, you're going to introduce it, and then I suspect you're going to punt.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Your Worship, and good evening to you and Council. And I'll quickly turn it over to Ms. Began. She's managing this project, and she's with the Community Planning Section. And we'll give a thorough and succinct update. We're happy to take questions. Thank you.
Ms. Began, good evening. Welcome. It's a lot of work.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. All right, last phase of Woodgrove Area Plan project. So for those that aren't aware, this is land in North Nanaimo that encompasses 65 properties. It's known as the Woodgrove Secondary Urban Center in our city plan. And so to date, we are currently in phase 3, which is looking at the policies, actions, really the roadmap on how we're going to create a complete community in the Woodgrove area. So in terms of phase 2 engagement, which was held a few months ago, we had 443 directly participate in phase 2. 64% of those were Woodgrove residents. 13 of those were Woodgrove area residents. We had 52 women, 40% men, 82% owners, 18% renters, and 99% of respondents were between the ages of 20 to 65 plus. Outreach and communication mirrored that we did in phase 1, so we looked at social media, bus posters, online ads, newspaper ads, as well as a project page to get the word out. And what did we hear? Well, we heard that the majority of respondents preferred scenario 3. So as a reminder, that was the growth scenario. We looked at 7,500 people, moving the transit exchange more centrally, bringing in some new parks, recreation, culture, and wellness facilities, as well as some transportation upgrades. And the reason I think we heard that people prefer scenario 3 is because based on the population, as well as the big moves that I just mentioned, it gets us the closest to the goal of a complete community. We did, however, hear that people were concerned about what the density is going to mean for those residents that currently live there. But overall, we heard positive feedback about the transportation as well as the parks and recreation changes that are proposed for the area. All right, so moving on to phase 3. So this is a big one. We have a pretty large report here. And so the components of it include policies, financial mechanisms, actions, monitoring, and design guidelines. So like I mentioned, it's really a roadmap, a draft roadmap of how we could potentially get to a complete community as time people move there and the area redevelops. So part 2 looks at policies. So it's currently still based on the 4 lenses of the complete communities assessment that we're doing. So housing, transportation, access to daily needs, and infrastructure. Part 3 looks at financial mechanisms. So this is a new approach for the city in terms of area planning. So we look at how we're going to pay for a lot of these big moves that we want to do. And this portion includes potentially looking at what projects might be DCC eligible versus those that may be covered by the cost of developers. Part 4 is actions. So we're looking at what actions do we need to take in order to achieve that goal of a complete community. The monitoring framework, how do we assess if we're getting there? And then the last one is design guidelines. So we're just putting in a few more specific design guidelines around form and character for the area to help with the growth in terms of what it's going to look like. And so in terms of next steps, we're currently in phase 3 of engagement. And so the last step in the process will be to actually prepare the the Woodgrove area plan based on what we hear through phase 3. And so we're currently in the second week of engagement. There's currently a survey available online on the Get Involved page. And so I'm just gonna get Natalie to bring it up for us. And I just wanna say that we did hear some challenges from the community regarding the survey. We are using a new platform, so we're just learning on the back end. But since then, we've really made an effort to have a direct link to the survey, as well as have an icon on the right now. And so we're hoping that that will improve the residents' access to it, and we'll hope to hear from everybody. Thank you so much.
Ms. Began, thank you very much. Councillor Armstrong and Councillor Eastmere.
I just wanted to thank Ms. Bagan and staff, because I was one of the ones that did send in the concerns I wrote, and I did get the new survey today, and the link worked great. So thank you so much, because it really does make a difference for people to be able to just click instead of go search. So really appreciate the fast action.
Thank you. Councillor Eastmere. Sorry.
Thank you very much. So option 3 includes support for a new transit exchange. I have heard from some folks who participated in earlier stages of the Woodgrove Area Plan engagement that they communicated the importance about connecting Woodgrove to the ENN line for the future when we have some kind of rail transit happening, whether that's light rail transit or rail buses or what have you. Has that been heard by staff and consultants, and is it being incorporated into this next stage?
Through the mayor to Councillor Eastmere, yes, it has. We have been in talks with the Island Corridor Foundation, and we did include a policy similar to the one that's been included in the city plan regarding that specifically. So should that happen in the future, we have policy that would support that action happening.
Wonderful, thank you.
Councillor Manley's on the screen too, just in case you hadn't seen him, Your Worship.
Yes, I know. Thank you. Councillor Manley.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for the presentation. I have a couple of questions. One's with the map. We don't see the Green Thumb properties in the map. Is that just because it's a separate master plan for the Green Thumb properties?
So maybe we can go back to the presentation, just the scope area. So a portion of the Bowers District is included within the Woodgrove Secondary Urban Center. And the other portion has a different designation of mixed-use corridor. So it was included in terms of looking at the population growth as well as the infrastructure and transportation implications. It does have its separate area plan that's adopted as bylaw, but we've incorporated those similar recommendations into this document.
Okay. And then the other question I have is just about the transit exchange. And is the thinking that the transit exchange would be on Highway 19A, like perhaps on, I don't know if it's ministry land that's beside 19A, where the exchange or the intersection with Halls Road and Hammond Bay is. Is that kind of the general thought, or has there been a location identified? It's just kind of up in the air right now.
Okay, so through the mayor to Councillor Manley, it's just a general location at the moment. So we have been working in partnership with the Regional District of Nanaimo's Transit Department as well as BC Transit. It just gives an opportunity that should the transit exchange need to move for whatever reason, we did look at potential for other options, and that report is available on the project website. And so it gives the opportunity for, be it a government agency or be it through private redevelopment, should the desire, be it from BC Transit or another government authority. We've done a little bit of background research to see where an appropriate space would be based on the overall need that has been identified in the transit redevelopment strategy that the RDN put out recently.
Okay, and I'm assuming that if the transit exchange moves, then we will see the transit-oriented area radius move as well. So that would probably change these plans somewhat. My last question is just around the different scenarios and the level of support. And scenario one, we had 7% support. It seems like everybody was, the the level of indifference was around 30, 31, 33%, but then the unsupportive went from 62 for scenario 1 to 39 for scenario 2, but scenario 3 still had 30% unsupportive. Is that your general read of that? Is that just because people are not interested in seeing more development in this area?
Through the mayor to Councillor Manley, I'm not sure. We didn't get specific feedback regarding that in the survey. There wasn't any direct feedback relating to that. So I'm sorry, but I can't answer that question for you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm curious because it's fairly split. 38% supportive and 30% unsupportive and 31% indifferent. And so I'd be curious as to why people feel that way and whether they understand that this is because it's actually going to be implemented by the province to have a transit-oriented area where there's going to be more density or not. So thanks.
Yep. The main feedback we did receive for scenario 3 is what I mentioned, is relating around the housing density. That was quite a common theme that we heard throughout the survey for scenario 3, and concerns about the implications of that density. But as you mentioned, with the transit-oriented area legislation, that's through the province now in terms of the density that's permitted.
Yeah, so we really don't have a choice. It's a matter of planning properly for it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Thorpe, then Councillor Perino.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Through you, if I may, Ms. Bagan, thank you very much for the report and your work on this. I found it very interesting. I had a couple of questions, though, relating to the Phase 2 survey, and I know that's been referenced already. First of all, it indicates in the report that a total of 445 people participated in the survey, or in the engagement process, I should say. And of those, approximately 90 were children from 2 school groups who took part in classroom activities. So I guess what I'm getting at is the validity of a survey in which 1/5 of the respondents are school-aged children doing a classroom activity as opposed to citizens who live in the area. And if I may, Your Worship, and again, maybe I'm misreading this, but I note it says that of the respondents, 64% were Nanaimo residents. I take that to mean City of Nanaimo. And then it says 13% Woodgrove area. Is that separate from the ones identified as City of Nanaimo residents, or is that included?
Through the mayor to Councillor Thorpe, that's separate. So that's if you add up the different percentages, they have to 100%.
I recognize that.
Yeah.
So we've got 64% Nanaimo, 13% Woodgrove.
Specific to Woodgrove that live within the scope area.
All right, and then 7% RDN or Lanceville and 16% other.
Correct.
So I guess what I'm getting at is, and it's no fault of the survey or staff, but I guess I'm a bit disappointed that more people from the actual Woodgrove area have not taken the time to get involved and respond to the survey to this point. So hopefully they will in Phase 3.
Yes, through the mayor to Councillor Thorpe, we did send out individual letters to every resident that lived within the scope area in Phase 1, and they have been invited to individual meetings, be it in person or virtually, to provide direct feedback to staff as opposed to the option of the survey. And for those that don't attend the meetings or have never responded to our request to attend the meetings, we do try to push it through the survey. But beyond that,
Yes.
we've kind of maxed out on our options in terms of getting out to the
You can only do so
residents.
much to encourage people's
And
participation.
same with the businesses. So we've reached out to the businesses as well. And so unfortunately, in Phase 3, we've actually even had less feedback from residents and businesses from the Woodgrove area.
All right, thank
And
you.
that's
No,
kind of reflective of city plan was the same. As we went up with the phases, we heard less and less because
yes.
perhaps there's less interest, I'm not sure, but.
I totally appreciate you can only do so much, but I would encourage people to get involved, and hopefully a larger percentage of that area will take part next round. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perino.
Thank you. Thank you, Worship, and a question through you. I was actually going to ask a similar question because I wasn't entirely sure that there was enough people that responded to give you the data that you truly needed to make some skilled assumptions, but you think you did. Is that right? Would you say you did?
Yeah, I think through the mayor to Councilor Perino, generally we don't know how much growth is going to happen in the area. It was more of a communication tool to let the public know that depending on these different growth scenarios, this is the potential of what could happen.
Yes.
And generally, do you support these big ideas, which really are already supported in city plan? We're just reinforcing this vision that we already have in city plan of a complete community. It's just now really putting in detail the policy of how to actually get there.
Okay.
And so, because it's a complete community assessment, we are required to meet their requirements. And so it's quite challenging to actually get feedback on a survey where you're required to do something. But I think this is a really important phase to get feedback from the community, because this is really the roadmap that will make it into the final Wood Grove area plan.
Okay, and when will it be done? Because you've got the final assessment report will be submitted by March the 31st. So when do you think you'll be back with all the final information that we are hoping to get?
Hopefully a few months after that.
A few months after that?
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Yeah, we're almost there.
Okay, good, thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm not seeing any other questions. Ms. Began? Much appreciate
Okay.
the work.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. The next is the Downtown Nanaimo Business Association Business Improvement Area Bylaw 2025, number 7395. Ms. Mercer, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So back in October, Council directed staff to work with the Downtown Nanaimo Business Association to establish the renewal of the business improvement area for another term of 5 years. And this was to be done with a petition against process. So in order for the BIA to be successful, the petition had to have less than 50% of the owners and less than 50% of the assessed value to have the levy. So the BIA process was held, and the results were 21.83% of the owners and 8.99% of the assessed value voted against the process. So therefore, Council may proceed with the adoption of the Downtown Nanaimo Business Association Business Improvement Levy, and that's bylaw 7395. So, and that will be later on the agenda. This was information only, but the bylaw will be for adoption at the end of the meeting.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Not seeing any questions about this. The next is C, the 2026 Association of Anchor Island and Coastal Communities Resolutions. Ms. Gurry, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this report, the purpose of this report is to seek your direction on proposed resolutions for the 2026 Association of Vancouver Island and Coastal Communities, otherwise known as AVICC, Annual General Meeting and Convention. So in the recommendations, they're broken into two parts. The first part being recommendations that staff have brought forward, and the second being a resolution from council for your consideration and direction, as well as direction on sending a letter. And some of the rationale is provided in your background of this report, and whereas starting this year, each AVICC member local government or First Nation may submit a maximum of 3 resolutions. Additionally, UBCM's bylaws were recently updated to reflect changes endorsed at last year's UBCM convention, intended to streamline the resolutions process. So that's in attachment A of your package, attached to this report. And as part of those changes, resolutions that are existing UBCM policy will be excluded from consideration by membership at UBCM convention. So to keep in mind for you when you are considering the 3 resolutions proposed, to be considered separately, 2 from staff, 1 from council. If you have any more that you have thought of since we first reached out to you, we would have to consider which one we would not be including in the 3 proposed. So the part 1, the council directs staff to submit the following resolutions, our staff submitted ones, and then we would ask you to move on to the second part where the providing direction on the council resolutions. So that's it, Your Worship. And I just want to give a shout out to Ms. Sponigal, who did an excellent job researching these resolutions, working with staff and council, and bringing this report forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilor Perino.
Thank you, Your Worship. And just a quick question. So the way the resolutions are written, do we take them the 2 at the same time, or do we do the first A and B, and then number two, A and B? How do we take this on?
That is the way it's kind of worked out in your report. So yeah, 1A and B would be taken together, and then 2A and B would be a separate resolution.
Okay, I'll move the first one, A and B.
Councillor Gesselbrock?
Point of just process. So we're only allowed to send 3 resolutions. So we're going to go through each one and vote on whether we want to bring that forward or? Oh, I thought there was 4 total.
No, so there is only 3 there. The last one, Councillor Hemmens was proposing a resolution, but after speaking with her, because the resolution that's 2B that's up there was passed at last year's UBCM convention, the direction given by AVICC when we reached out to them was that a letter should be sent just because it was passed. We're just asking for some action to be taken. So by sending the letter and endorsing 2B, you would just be requesting that action be taken on an already passed resolution. So there is only 3 actual resolutions that you're putting forward in these both 1 and 2 up.
Great, my apologies, thank you.
And a seconder we need?
Seconded.
Seconded. And this is A and B together. Any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor and any opposed? None. Motion carries. The remaining one is that council provide direction regarding the following: the resolution titled Raw Log Exports as presented in the report titled 2026 Association of Anchorage and Coastal Communities Resolutions. So moved. And is there a seconder? Seconded. Councillor Eastmere. Discussion on this? Councillor Armstrong?
Just a question on that. Is this under provincial control or federal?
Well, my knowledge may be old and out of date, but with respect to raw log exports off private lands, only the federal government would have jurisdiction as a matter of trade, I think, to restrict that. I could be wrong. Whereas provincially, Crown Forest, etc., yes, they would have control. Councillor Manley has his hand up. Hopefully he's got more smarts on this than I do. Councillor Manley?
Yeah, that is why I wrote that into the resolution. It is the federal government that does have export permits, that provides export permits for private managed forest lands. And so a lot of the raw log exports from Vancouver Island are from private managed forest lands.
Any further discussion? All those in favor and any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you.
Your worship, I was opposed.
Pardon me?
I had my hand up to speak, but
Oh,
I didn't call
sorry.
the vote, but I was opposed.
You're opposed to the resolution?
Yeah.
And your worship, did we include B in that motion? Was B included, or you're moving on to that now?
I'm moving on
Thank
to
you,
that
sorry.
separately. I think that's the appropriate thing. Sorry, Councillor Brown. We'll show you as opposed, though, okay? And the other one is that the mayor sent a letter on behalf of council requesting immediate action to be taken to implement the request, et cetera, et cetera. Would someone care to move that? Moved Councillor Thorpe, seconded Councillor Eastmere. Discussion on that? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Any opposed? Councillor Brown, you're not opposed? No, thank you. You were a little slow with the hand. I wasn't sure, and I didn't want to miss you this time. Thank you very much. We're now on to item 13, development reports. The first is housing agreement number HA19-3425 Uplands Drive.
In your worship, I believe Councillor Manley is going to recuse himself on this item.
Yes.
I am.
And could you state the reason? I think it's because you've previously declared a conflict, or?
Yeah, I had a contract with NACL, the Nanaimo Association for Community Living, in the past, and so I've recused myself in the past, and I will continue to do that.
Okay, we'll just put you in the waiting room while this item's on. Thanks.
Thank you. And Councillor Armstrong, you'll make the motions?
Housing agreement bylaw 2026, number 7437, to secure the terms and conditions of occupancy for personal care facility at 3425 Uplands Drive, pass first reading.
Seconded Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Housing agreement bylaw 2026, number 7437, pass second reading.
Seconded Councillor Perino. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Housing Agreement Bylaw 2026, number 7437, passed third reading, and council directs staff to register a Land Title Act, Section 219 covenant to reinforce.
Those are separate motions.
Oh, usually we take them together, sorry. Let me use the RDA.
It's okay if she moves them
It's
together,
okay.
Your Worship, yeah.
You win, Councillor.
To reinforce the terms of the housing agreement for Phase 2 development following adoption of the bylaw.
Seconded Councillor Perino. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Bylaw 7446-Phase 1 Housing Agreement -3425 Uplands Drive. Councillor Armstrong.
Housing Agreement Bylaw 2026, number 7446, to secure the terms and conditions of occupancy for existing multifamily units at 3425 Uplands Drive, pass first reading.
Seconded Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Housing Agreement Bylaw 2026, number 7446, pass second reading.
Seconded Councillor Perino. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Can I do them together? Housing Agreement Bylaw 2026, number 7446, pass third reading.
Seconded Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None.
Council directs staff to register an amendment to the existing housing agreement and covenant CA 5511139 to amend the terms of the housing agreement for Phase 1 development following adoption of the bylaw.
Seconded Councillor Eastmere. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you.
We'll just let Councillor Manley return before, I think.
Sorry?
Bring Council Brown, or Council Manley back in.
Yeah, and then I think Councillor Manley, because you're virtual, we're going to have Councillor Armstrong read out the remaining bylaws.
Good. All right. The next is rezoning application number RA 524-1100 Mon Road. We do have a delegation. Blake Ector. Mr. Ector, good evening. You may have heard me before with the previous delegation. 5 minutes, sir. Introduce yourself for the record. When there's a minute left, I'll let you know. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Blake Ector. I'm the Director of Operations at Broken Coast Cannabis. I'm here regarding rezoning application RA 524 regarding our property at 1100 Mon Road. Firstly, I want to say thank you for the consideration of our application. In 2022, the LCRB initiated a producer retail store program. The purpose of this program is to enable producers and cultivators to sell their cannabis at their sites. These are also known as farm gate stores. Currently in the province, we have 3 stores. One's in Victoria and then 2 on the mainland. We are very excited about the prospect of opening our own store here on site at the property on Mon Road. Really, our intention is to convert a very small portion of the existing warehouse, about 750 square feet, to be retail space. So that, again, would be accessory retail space to our zoning. This would allow us to sell our cannabis and merchandise on site. We believe that having a store on site will really augment our tours that we bring to site, allow our local Nanaimo folks to have access to the freshest Broken Coast products, and generally grow our brand. The cannabis industry is intensely competitive. I think that's very well known. The vast majority of businesses struggle to even break even. We at Broken Coast have been one of the fortunate companies to do well and find success in this industry. And we are really primed for the long term. That's precisely why we decided to move our operations into the old Tilray site here on Mon Road. I was a part of that initial shutdown and moving away, so it definitely personally feels very good to bring our operation back there. We really believe that this is something that the community can take advantage of from a tour end of things. The Broken Coast team is comprised of 60 members of this community who all take very, very great pride in their craft, and that's cultivating premium cannabis. Broken Coast has grown to be one of the top 5 premium cannabis brands in Canada. We believe that Nanaimo should be proud to showcase and feature Broken Coast cannabis amongst the city and as well to tourists. Thank you.
Very good. You've got 2.5 minutes left. Any questions to the delegation? Councillor Perino.
Thank you, Your Worship, and a question through you, and thank you for being here and speaking about this. I just wondered, just given the area, do you expect to have a lot of walk-in customers? How will you deal with that?
Yeah, we definitely don't expect to have a lot of walk-in customers. As you guys are all very aware, the Duke Point Peninsula is very industrial.
Right.
Certainly we have offshoots coming from BC Ferries.
Yes.
We expect the majority of our traffic to be coming in vehicle-wise.
Okay, so you think it'll be more of a destination
Correct.
location? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I wondered about that. I realize it's quite small, so, 750 square feet is not a large, but I wondered how you expected to get people in the door, just given the location of it. But you think just because...
Yeah, overall, so what we really want to do at our site, and we currently are doing, is bringing tours to site.
Okay.
A lot of bud tenders and retailers around.
Okay.
We want to show off our operation, what we do. We're very proud of what we do, and we want to be able to open that up more even to the public, as well as augmenting our tours. So the option to be able to buy our product right there on site.
Oh, I see. Yes.
We think it'd be greatly beneficial.
Okay.
Furthermore, we know that tourism in Nanaimo is something that we're all targeting to expand on for our local economy, and that's something that we want to lean into. Is there an option where we can provide transportation from downtown Nanaimo out to our site for a tour, for folks coming on tour boats or wherever?
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Not seeing any further questions for the delegation. Thank you, Mr. Director. Appreciate your attendance tonight. Councillor Armstrong?
Zoning Amendment Bylaw 2026, number 4500.239, to rezone 1100 Mon Road to allow cannabis retail store as a site-specific accessory use in the industrial I-4 zone, passed first reading.
Seconded, Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Councillor Armstrong?
Zoning Amendment Bylaw 2026, number 4500.239, passed second reading.
Seconded, Councillor Perino. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Council directs staff to hold a public hearing for zoning amendment bylaw 2026, number 4500.239.
Seconded, Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Council directs staff to secure BC Liquor and Cannabis Regulation branch approval prior to the adoption of the bylaw. Should council support the bylaw at third reading?
Seconded, Councillor Eastmere. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you. On to bylaws. A, zoning amendment bylaw 2025, number 4500.242.
That zoning amendment bylaw 2025, number 4500.242 be adopted.
Seconded, Councillor Perino. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. The next is B, fees and charges amendment bylaw 2025, number 7336.14.
That fees and charges amendment bylaw 2025, number 7336.14 be adopted.
Seconded, Councillor Eastmere. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
That Downtown Nanaimo Business Association Business Improvement Area bylaw 2025, number 7395 be adopted.
Seconded, Councillor Eastmere. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. The next is the Intercommunity Business License Bylaw 2025, number 7435. It is requested that anyone, council will hear from anyone wishing to speak with respect to the Intercommunity Business License Bylaw 2025, number 7435. Anyone here who wishes to speak to it? Not seeing any. Councillor Armstrong?
That Intercommunity Business License Bylaw 2025, number 7435 be adopted.
Seconded, Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. And finally, item E, Financial Plan Bylaw 2025, number 7436. Councillor Armstrong.
That Financial Plan Bylaw 2025, number 7436 be adopted.
Seconded, Councillor Perino. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. We're on to correspondence. The first item is correspondence dated 2025, October 31st in the BC Ombudsperson Office. Read quarterly report, July 1st, September 30th, 2025. I don't think we're looking for a motion, but Ms. Gurry, another compliment to the city. We have a very clean record in the last few years. Touch wood, I noticed that. 15B, Alma Mater Society of UBC request for a letter of support re discounted student rate on BC ferries. Councillor Eastmere.
Thank you. I was happy to see this request for letters of support come through from the Alma Mater Society of UBC. I think it's something that certainly makes sense to me around having a student rate for BC Ferries. And if it is okay, I'd like to make a motion
That we provide a letter
that we
of
provide a
support.
letter of support.
Second.
Seconded.
Thank
Wish to say anything further?
Yes, as chair of the city's advisory committee on accessibility and inclusiveness, I really see this creation of a $10 student rate as important progress towards making life more affordable and equitable for students who are already struggling with BC's high cost of living. And BC Ferries is really a key element of public transit. And I would, of course, also like to see affordable rates extended to people living with disabilities and living below the poverty line. But I'm happy to support this advocacy for a $10 student rate.
Thank you very much. Any further speakers on this? Not seeing any. All those in favor and any opposed? None. Motion carries. And the third is correspondence dated 2026, January 5th, from the Island North Film Commission letter regarding 2026 bridge funding for Island North Film Commission. It's a funding request. Councillor Manley, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to move that we provide the $30,000 requested in this funding request. I don't want to belabor this too much. We've debated this at the Regional District of Nanaimo. I think it's unfortunate that the Regional District didn't support this, because I think Regional District benefits from the activity that InFilm is engaged in. Looking at their letter, it's $250 million, $250 million, $250 million in economic activity since InFilm has been engaged in promoting this region for the film industry. And I'd actually like to ask staff, because I know they have some numbers around supporting InFilm in the past. And
Can you move the motion first?
Okay, I'll move the motion first.
Thank you.
Seconded.
Councillor Armstrong. Councillor Manley, please.
Yeah, so I know that we've supported InFilm in the past as a city, and I think that given the shortfall in the funding, it's a small organization. The loss of $50,000 means the loss of staff to them, and they do good work. And we've had a letter from the executive director of the tourism board, and we've had a letter from the CEO of the Nanaimo Prosperity Corporation, both of whom say that this is good value for the dollar that we would be spending. So I would just hope that we can find a way to support InFilm to carry on doing the work that they do at promoting the island to the film industry as a nonprofit organization. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Armstrong?
Yeah, I'll be supporting this here. I asked for this at the RDN because I believe the cities were the ones who actually profited far more than the regional district or the electoral areas, and I think we can show a definite benefit to the city, so supportive here.
Thank you. Councillor Prino, then Councillor Gesselbrook.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have some problems with this. When I went to do some research on it, when we got the letter, the website does not actually talk about where their funding comes from and how they spend the money that comes in. It also doesn't talk about how they're looking towards a sustainable funding model, which they do talk about in their third paragraph. It is not that I would be voting against this on its face value, but without having the executive director, Joan Miller, come to the council table, without hearing more, I can't vote in favor of it at this time. And I would hope that we would leave this for a council meeting and have her come and talk to us about what they do with the money, where it's from. They're not even listed on CRA as far as a charitable organization. So as a nonprofit, that did surprise me. So I just want to know more about them before I agree to giving $30,000, because normally that would go through our grants committee, and it's bypassing that.
Well, Councillor Prino, it strikes me that then the thing to do would be to move a motion to defer it.
I'll move to defer it to the next council meeting.
There's a seconder?
I'll second
seconded Councillor Thorpe. Any discussion on the motion to defer? Councillor Perino?
Well, only your worship. I just want more information before, when motions like this come to us through letters, I want to know more about what the organization is going to do with our funding. It feels a little like we're giving money out without having all of the information at hand. And yes, we did receive 2 letters. They didn't answer all of my questions. I'd like to have Joan Miller come and answer the questions, and I'd feel much more secure about granting the request.
Now, I have a long list, Councillors Gesselbrock, Armstrong, Eastmere, and Thorpe, and this is on the deferral. Councillor Gesselbrock?
Thanks, Mayor. Through you, a question to staff. Was there any indication on the urgency of the bridge funding? Not sure if it was mentioned in the letter.
Your worship, staff didn't have any further conversations beyond receiving the correspondence, so no.
Thanks. I'm inclined, I can understand Councillor Perino's concerns with the deferral. However, it's pretty clear to me, from on the RDN what InFilm does. They bring productions to be filmed in this region. For example, The Last of Us, that was really cool to have that filmed here and brought in, a significant amount of income into the community. And that's pretty much what they do. So I think that it's important, and the way that it was being split up at the RDN didn't quite maybe make sense to some of the more rural areas, but we do benefit from their work. And so I'm prepared to support the bridge funding now, and I think it's important, for the organization to focus on its long-term sustainability, and I think part of that is, having the funding directly come from the communities that do benefit from it, which is the city of Nanaimo. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Armstrong?
Thank you. Through you, your worship, to Ms. Gurr, I just was wondering if there was a finance and audit meeting sooner than that, because I would like to deal with this sooner than later, but I'm not sure which is first, council or finance and audit.
Thank you, your worship. Through you to Councillor Armstrong. Our January finance and audit was scheduled last week, but there was no items, so the next one is not until February 18th, and our next council meeting would be February 2nd. So.
Okay, thank you. I'll support the deferral for one reason only, and it's because I've always made a point, if a councillor or a mayor does not have sufficient information to make, in their opinion, an informed decision, I think we need to give them that opportunity. I don't see any urgency to the request, but I will be in favor of this because I think the city benefits greatly from InFilm.
Thank you. Councillor Thorpe?
Thank you, your worship, and thank you, Councillor Perino, because I tend to share your thoughts on this, and likely the bottom line is I would be supportive, but I feel I also need more information. We did receive a letter from the CAO of the Tourism Board, but the board itself at Tourism has not discussed this. So I don't know if there's an opportunity for that to happen, and similar with the Prosperity Corporation, I know we received a letter from their CAO, but I don't know if that has been discussed at their board for a decision of support. I would like to know about more about where the money goes, how it is spent, how much is put towards staff, what staff there is, what the role of the directors are on InFilm. And I think we all agree that film productions bring economic benefit to our area, but what exactly is the role of InFilm in facilitating those companies coming here? What do they do? So to me, there's unanswered questions that I would really appreciate getting the answers to, so I could feel more confident in supporting this request. And if that happens at a Finance Audit Committee, I think that would be appropriate, but I will support the deferral. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not going to support the deferral, and it's not because I think it's inappropriate necessarily. It's just that having had some experience on this council and being familiar with InFilm's work over many years, I'm more than comfortable in supporting the application for the monies that they've requested tonight, and I'll leave it at that. The motion is to defer. All those in favor, Councillors Armstrong, Eastmere, Thorpe, Perino, and those opposed, Councillor Gesselbrock, Mayor Krogh, Councillor Brown, Councillor Manley. The motion to defer is defeated. We're back to the main motion. All those in favor? Councillors Armstrong, Eastmere, Gesselbrock, Krog, Brown, and Manley. Those opposed, Councillors Thorpe and Prino. The motion carries. Thank you very much, everyone. We have no notices.
Your Worship.
Your Worship,
Oh, sorry, Ms. Mercer.
we need to know how you would like to fund this. So there is basically two options. You can fund it from your strategic infrastructure reserve, or you can fund it from taxation.
Councillor Armstrong,
I'll move to from the Strategic Infrastructure Reserve.
seconded Councillor Prino. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you very much, Ms. Mercer. No notices of motion tonight. We're on to other business, and the first is Councillor Manley, motion re four-pillar approach. Councillor Manley?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to move the motion that council send a letter to the provincial and federal governments which reiterates that the ongoing impacts on communities of the addiction, mental health, toxic drug, and homelessness crisis is unacceptable, that these senior levels of government must fully engage in a comprehensive four-pillar approach of harm reduction, prevention, treatment, and enforcement to tackle the illicit drug poisoning, mental health, and addictions crisis in our communities and communities across BC, and that senior levels of government work towards effective long-term solutions that integrate the principles of these four pillars in a unified strategy.
And do we have a seconder? Seconded, Councillor Gesselbrock. Councillor Councillor, you wish to speak to it?
Yeah, the four pillars approach is an old process, but it needs to be updated. And in the background document that I provided, it shows some of the things that need to be updated. I mean, we talk about things like prevention, including addressing the social determinants of health and underlying risk factors, and education about the lethal nature of the toxic drug supply, of the harmful effects of addictive drugs, including alcohol. But prevention also must include incorporating free mental health services under the Canada Health Act to be provided through provincial health services to ensure that people experiencing mental health challenges can receive the services they need and reduce the compulsion to self-medicate with drugs and alcohol. The other parts of the pillar, like harm reduction, we know that harm reduction is important because it saves people's lives. It reduces transmittable disease. It saves healthcare costs by reducing emergency department visits. And this approach needs to be accompanied, with healthcare and social service providers at overdose prevention sites. We need a housing first approach, to ensure that people with mental health and addiction challenges who are experiencing homelessness are provided with appropriate supportive housing as part of a harm reduction strategy. And a harm reduction strategy without a concerted focus on the other three pillars only prolongs the misery that people afflicted with mental health, addiction, and homelessness face daily. So it doesn't alleviate or properly address the chaos and disruption for communities affected by the crisis without these other processes. And that includes prevention, treatment, and enforcement. And prevention I've already talked about. It's really important to educate people about this. And of course, we're dealing with a whole different problem now than when the four-pillar approach was originally proposed 25 years ago. The treatment pillar needs to be vastly expanded so that people with substance use disorders who are voluntarily seeking treatment are able to receive treatment upon request. But that's not the case right now. People have to wait. That people who receive treatment and are experiencing homelessness are provided with appropriate supportive dry housing to reduce continuing cycles of harm. And that's not what we're seeing as well. We're seeing people that end up coming out of treatment and going back into shelter systems or into wet housing. And the people that are unable to care for themselves or make informed decisions for themselves are taken into care to protect themselves from additional harm and to protect the community. And this pillar must also include access to opioid agonist therapy to divert people from substance use disorders from using toxic street drugs. And we know that there's a number of those kind of agonist therapies, Suboxone, methadone, et cetera, that people could be accessing. And then, of course, the enforcement pillar needs to strengthen penalties for high-level drug producers and traffickers of highly addictive, illegal substances and toxic drugs. And low-level drug traffickers and people engaged in crimes of survival to deal with their addiction, who are also affected by substance use disorders, should be directed towards treatment and restorative justice programs and not criminalized. This is a health crisis that is being fed by organized crime. And so the original 4 pillars, yes, it's outdated and it needs to be updated, and we need to make sure that things like mental health are covered, especially after the COVID crisis. We're seeing so many young people with mental health challenges and parents unable to assist them because they have to pay $150 an hour.
Councillor Manley, I'm just going to interrupt you for a minute. Ms. Gurry, do we have a 3-minute limit on speaking to motions?
I'm done.
I'm asking Ms. Gurry a question.
Your worship, I would have to look at the exact wording in the procedure bylaw, but I think the first time is 3 minutes, second time 5, a total of 5 minutes, I think. But yes, you're correct.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Manley. Councillor Armstrong?
I cannot support this.
It's on over
Okay.
here.
I can't support this because even as Councillor Manley said, the 4 pillars is sadly outdated. It's, I was looking at this, and the International Journal of Drug Policy is strongly opposed to the 4-pillar approach, and they did studies in 9 different countries that use this. It's not effective, it's not working. So to go back to something that we know is not working, to me, doesn't make sense. I believed Councillor Thorpe's motion at the previous one where they asked them to find new ways forward made more sense, because I can't support something where we know it doesn't work and all the research says it doesn't work. Thank you.
Thank you.
And your worship, sorry, just a correction, it's 5 minutes for the first time on a matter, 2 minutes for the second time on a matter.
Councillor Manley, I cut you off. I apologize.
That's fine, I was done.
Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll endeavor to be less than 5 minutes. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to support this, and I'm actually a little bit disappointed that Councillor Manley would present this motion only weeks after he and 4 other councillors voted against my motion of December 1st when I asked for a letter requesting the provincial government change their approach to the opioid crisis by focusing on prevention, education, treatment, and enforcement. And I said to, quote, shift the focus onto education and treatment for long-term benefits. So in some respects, the motion in front of us, I think, is quite similar to the intent of my motion. Oscar Wilde, I believe it was, said that the sincerest form of flattery is imitation, and I won't give the remainder of that quote as I recall it in the interest of being diplomatic, but I guess I should feel flattered, but I'm also really not too impressed because I brought this intent to council and we debated it and turned it down. Councillor Manley's motion, in my mind, I'm sorry to say, is derivative, but it's also prescriptive in that it limits reference to the 4-pillar approach, which he admits needs updating and alteration. So for that reason as well, I'm not going to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gesselbrock.
Thanks. I think getting caught up in the 4-pillar approach or not, my take is that basically the overdose drug situation in town is unmanageable, and we need much greater provincial and federal support that's comprehensive to address it. That's my take on it, very simple intent, and yeah, we do that. So I'm in support of this because, yeah, I don't think anybody reading this at the federal or provincial level are going to get drawn into the weeds on the particular wording. It's very clear that we need a comprehensive approach that covers, all aspects of prevention, harm reduction, treatment, and enforcement, which is the full spectrum. We just need more effort into it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Prino.
Thank you, Your Worship. And the reason why I supported Councillor Thorpe's motion back in early December was the fact that it was to look at new and comprehensive ways of dealing with this problem. What we have is a mess. And the 4 pillars, it's old. I appreciate the intent of this, and I know Councillor Manley is just trying to do something to make things right. But the problem is that we need new, innovative ways of dealing with this problem, because we're the ones at the city level that are dealing with it on a daily basis. And it's very disruptive to our neighborhood and to our businesses. And it's an awful situation, particularly for those who are actually living the problem on a day-to-day basis. This is a health crisis like we've never seen before. While I will not support the particular motion by Councillor Manley, I appreciate that we need to do something to improve the situation.
Thank you. Councillor Manley.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a correction to Councillor Thorpe about his motion. It doesn't mention education, it doesn't mention treatment, and it doesn't mention enforcement. I can read it for you. It says that council send a letter to the provincial government asking to re-examine its philosophy regarding the ongoing drug addiction crisis and resulting mental health and street disorder issues, stating that the current policy of decriminalization and enabling drug use at consumption sites is failing to provide effective long-term solutions for either those with addictions or for neighborhoods impacted by the problem. End quote. It does not mention any of the other key things that we need to focus on, whether you call it 4 pillars or not. We need to focus on education. We need to focus on prevention. And harm reduction is a key aspect of just keeping people alive. And closing, saying that it's a philosophy that doesn't work, and, enabling consumption sites is failing. Consumption sites do not fail in their purpose. Their purpose is to keep people alive. So it is not the same motion, it is not the same intent, and it is not the same wording. And so you should not be flattered at all, Mr. Thorpe. Thank you, Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you. Council, the original motion arose out of various delegations who had come from the community with respect to the hub and the ongoing street disorder. And no disrespect to either Councillors Manley or Thorpe, but I'm not absolutely satisfied that either of these motions reflect what we're trying to say to the provincial government in terms of its need to fund, in terms of suggesting it's a 4-pillar approach or simply re-examine its philosophy, etc. I'm not sure either of these motions are entirely effective, nor do they necessarily reflect what I think is the common will of this community. So for what it's worth, and doing the count, I'm not going to support Councillor Manley's motion for that reason, and I do so in the hope that if this motion is defeated on a 4-4 tie tonight, that some bright person around this council table, and I regard all of you as bright, will come up with a motion that I think we can all unanimously support, as opposed to sending a letter to the government which is the result of a 3-6 or a 4-5, whatever vote. I think it is incredibly important in these challenging times. We know that with respect to Councillor Thorpe's original motion, the government has already very much re-examined its current policy of decriminalization. And it just seems to me that we might wish to consider a motion, and I'm not going to ask for it tonight, please. That's not what I'm thinking about. That if it does go down to defeat on the basis of a tie, that we come back with a motion that reflects both the current policy of the government and with a throne speech and budget coming, we may have further guidance from what the province actually wants to do. Because surely we can all agree on the fact that what we have in our streets, as Councillor Manley's motion says, is unacceptable. It's not only unacceptable, it is unbecoming of a 21st century democracy. So, I hope I haven't inspired too much debate. Unfortunately, I appear to. That's okay. Councillor Brown, you're first, then Councillor Eastmere, and then Councillor Thorpe. Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much, Your Worship. you know, I appreciate the intent of councillors, or I appreciate Councillor Thorpe bringing forward a motion, even though I voted against it, just as I appreciate Councillor Manley bringing this forward, but I will be voting against it as well. Undoubtedly, we all know it's a problem, and I would look forward to actually a motion that reiterates our existing positions, which are, we have a whole advocacy webpage that summarizes them all very well, and I don't think either of the motion deviates too far from them. So I would encourage all of council to maybe revisit the page, revisit our previous advocacy positions that are still our positions of council, because I think they're all relevant. I think most of them had 9-0 support. So I won't be supporting this, but I do think there's an opportunity to you know, sort of sharpen where we stand on things and reiterate our existing positions, because I think they're quite good, and I think there's something there for everybody to support without getting too overly complicated with slightly different perspectives. So I'll just leave it at that, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Eastmere, then Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you. I think what we actually need is a meeting with the Minister of Health to talk about this. It's a very nuanced and complex issue. I think during the debate on Councillor Thorpe's motion, when I listened back to it, I really feel like we were all almost saying the same thing. And it was the wording and the finessing around that we weren't able to do that night. And I appreciate Councillor Manley bringing this motion forward, which I think really meant to capture all of the pieces that were mentioned by various councillors around that table, both for and against Councillor Thorpe's motion, because it didn't really capture the health aspect and the prevention aspect. To Councillor Brown's point, there are advocacy pieces where we really do all agree on it, and it's unfortunate that we can't figure out the wording for a letter, but I don't even think a letter would be effective at this point. We do need to sit down with the minister to really figure out where they're at, because I don't really understand where the provincial government is really at in terms of addressing the opioid crisis right now anyway. I think they've put us in a very dangerous and precarious place at the moment with walking back decriminalization without any kind of clear path forward. So at this point, it's a conversation I'm most interested in, and I don't think a letter will get us where we want to go at this point.
Thank you. Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Yes, this is a hugely important issue to our community, and I do appreciate the intent of Councillor Manley's motion, and I think the intent behind his motion was very similar to the intent behind my earlier motion. So even though I was not flattered by his words, I do applaud his intent, and I am quite willing to work together with Councillor Manley and any other councillors to craft a letter if council decides we want to proceed with a letter, or if there's another route that we want to follow, because we all want to try and do something to bring about improvements to this social crisis that we're faced with. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The motion is on the floor. All those in favor, Councillor Gesselbrock, Councillor Manley, and those opposed, Councillor Armstrong, Eastmere, Mayor Krogh, Councillor Thorpe, Councillor Perino, Councillor Brown. The motion fails. I suggest, Council, that what Councillor Thorpe has suggested is one step forward, and surely we can put something together in terms of a meeting with the minister. Well, the trouble is we're dealing with a number of ministers, so again, it's one of those occasions where there may be an impetus or desire to move with a motion on the fly, but I'm going to suggest everybody take some time and think about carefully what might be effective. I'll leave it at that. Councillor Gesselbrock, your motion refunding for a daytime drop-in hub?
I'll move that the mayor and council
You have to turn, sorry.
Move that the mayor and council write to the Minister of Housing and Municipal Affairs requesting a meeting to discuss the urgent need for funding for a daytime drop-in homelessness resource hub, as well as other housing-related priorities.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Armstrong? Discussion on this, Councillor Gesselbrock?
This just arose from when all the service providers for the drop-in hub spoke to us about the imminent closing of its current location. the end of March, and how there is, really a shortfall in resources to open one up in an appropriate location that is properly resourced to mitigate the, surrounding social disorder that can happen, as well as provide the essential services and supports that they're finding very effective in terms of allowing BC Housing and service providers to move people off the streets and into housing. This has been a long-term need, but we do need greater provincial support for it, and it's something that there's been correspondence with previous ministers, both in the media and I think from us, on support for, and we should be following up with the new minister. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor? And any opposed? None. Motion carries. Question period, Ms. Gurry? I don't think we've got any. Motion to adjourn, Councilor Brino, seconded Councilor Thorpe. All those in favor?